All right, it's the Pop Tower Podcast. I'm Peter W. Dawson.
I'm James Bullock.
And we are here to talk to you about video games, TV shows, and movies. How you doing today, James?
You know what, Peter? I have to tell you right now, this is the day I feel like I'm fired up enough that I have to say it. Oh, Lordy, what a day.
Oh, yeah. I can really feel the bliss today.
You can feel it. I know you can. Because you're the only one.
Well, sometimes in the 90s, things just get boring otherwise.
Yeah, I tell you, but whenever I see a monster grow, it just makes me so much more happy.
Good times. All right. That might be one of our most forced ones.
Yeah.
I keep thinking maybe we should do away with these, but then we have the ones where I think they're gold, and then it's just like, Anyway, so we're going to start talking today about the hot new kid on the scene, Far Cry 5. What? I'm not allowed to make 90s references?
No,
you know where this is going later.
It's so well.
Would you like me without the crust? Because I'm clearly white bread.
Well, here's the thing. It's funny that the stuff we're talking about, even though everything came out this year, it actually feels very 90s.
Well, yeah. Like I said, we're talking about Far Cry 5, and this reminds me of, what if they did a RoboCop sequel, but, in Montana?
Yeah.
That's really the vibe I kept getting through the whole thing. Was a bit, even though, it's a weird connection to make, it really just made me think of RoboCop. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because you're playing a deputy in, a World Gone Mad.
Yeah, well, he's a rookie at first. He's a rookie deputy, and
yeah.
I love the fact that, not to spoil too much for the people that haven't played it, but unlike the last Far Cry's, this is pretty much a Far Cry featuring a guy or girl that's essentially you. It's an avatar for you.
Well, yeah, because, Far Cry 1, you had a character, but he was kind of, what was his name, Jack something?
Yeah, I really can't remember, but, he had a face to him.
Hawaiian shirt. Yeah, there was some personality. He wasn't very well defined, though. And then Far Cry 2, you had a series of characters you could play as. So you were one of many mercenaries. Far Cry 3, you had a very defined character.
Yeah, that's when it started defining the actual
well.
characters. It was in 3, really.
Yeah, because 3, and 4, your character's backstory really fits in. And now 5, it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, Primal was. It's interesting because there's stuff about Primal I didn't like, but it might have been my favorite Far Cry.
It really, I actually replayed it for when I did a review of it, and going through it, I was like, man, this actually is a very underrated game in the series. It's funny that they stripped so much of the Far Cry real feel away from it, from the insanity. From 3 and 4, they stripped it away just because of Primal and the setting and everything, and then yet it just, to me, flowed a lot better than some of the other stuff that Far Cry 4 provided, and to a certain extent, even what 5 provided.
Yeah. So, but we should probably get into the plot here, real quick, because I'm going to touch on it briefly, because I'm also going to try to bring people up to speed who have never played a Far Cry game.
Exactly.
So in this case, it's set in Hope County, Montana, where a preacher or cultist.
He's a religious leader. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah. I got some material here, and it keeps calling him a preacher specifically. I'm
you play through the game and you hear his story. He's really not a preacher.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. As soon as I said it, I'm like,
yeah.
Anyway, Joseph Seed. That's a hell of a name.
No.
He's got a group called the Project, or the full name being the Project at Eden's Gate. Yeah, I think they call it Eden's Gate, and they call it the Project a few times.
They explain it at the beginning, why the people are called Peggies, and you find out it's Project of Eden's Gate. But then it's just pretty much Eden's Gate throughout the entire game, I guess just to make it easier for everybody.
Yeah. So him and his people, they're basically a militaristic doomsday cult. Just basically take any horrible, cliched, extreme religious group with lots of guns and equipment, and any horror image you can imagine with that, and make them the bad guys, and boom.
Yeah. And It's like I can definitely get the RoboCop feel right there.
Yeah. Well, exactly. This is what I'm saying. Because you are the law.
Man, I can really see the RoboCop feel now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because you play a deputy, and you're essentially the law in a place that has suddenly become lawless. Because you come in with a sheriff and
U.S. Marshals.
U.S. Marshals. Yeah. That is is an important thing because there's the sheriff department and the marshals, so you have a couple of good guy factions.
Before we go on, how'd you love the sheriff's mustache?
Oh, it was awesome. Like just all the facial hair.
Just incredible.
I don't know how suitable facial hair is for Montana, but I'm fine with it. I just never thought of Montana as a facial hair place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the best image of Montana, I guess.
It is rugged, so I guess he fits the bill. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I guess you could call Montana rugged. I say it with my limited knowledge.
Hey, did you going back to the preacher thing, at least they do have a preacher with a vest on, a bulletproof vest, so they do have at least one legitimate preacher in the game. Yeah, bulletproof preacher, there you go. Father Gabriel can learn from this guy.
Absolutely. And then, so you go in, things go wrong, and then you kind of find yourself in essentially enemy territory trying to deal with the cult, because they're essentially the major power. And they've got more than a few tricks. Should we go into Bliss, or that's kind of a major plot point?
It's not really a major plot point, because one of the big things that they inform you about, which I know a lot of people getting confused about, what is Bliss, what it really is, and they actually explain early in the game, it's pretty much like an extreme form of poppy seeds that they cultivate, because there's a section of the map where there are a whole bunch of white flowers, and if you get in the area, you actually start hallucinating a little bit, the screen gets blurry, and come to find out, they're using those flowers to make Bliss, which is just this hallucination. It's like LSD, but a lot simpler, I guess.
Yeah, they're using it to a degree to basically
manipulate
people.
Zombies and mind control and all that kind of jazz. But I mean, that's the
mind control, hypnosis, all that stuff,
and even bullets.
Yep. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And it's fine because they spend a lot of time exploring this, and they give it a basis, and then they much like most harder sci-fi, it's okay, we'll start with this as a basis, then we'll just give it wonderful properties. But it does lead to because the hallucination stuff is one of the more interesting aspects of gameplay.
It's so much to the actual gameplay and the story.
Just to quickly dive in, so Far Cry, for those who don't know, it is a first-person shooter. And they're essentially open worlds. You're roaming around and you're doing various missions. You're just doing it with a lot of very nice firepower. So it tends to be a first person shooter rather than, say, the other Ubisoft major series,
in it too,
Assassin's Creed. Oh yeah, there's absolutely stealth sessions. I'm just saying because it's modern day. You have more assault rifles. Stealth isn't as much of a focus, although it is definitely still an option.
I'd use more stealth than anything, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And it's always fun to sneak up on someone with a baseball bat and just give them a rude awakening.
Just the greatness of a chain takedown, getting behind somebody, and then throwing that bat at the person that's in front of them.
Yep. I think we've pretty much touched on the plot and the gameplay. I mean, okay, we should probably mention now to go in this game. If you've played a Ubisoft game by now, you'll know exactly how this goes. There's a big open world. There's a lot of repeatable quests. There's a lot of stuff you need to do. There's races. There's trials. They made a point of getting rid of radio towers.
Made fun of it in game.
Yeah, so which shows me they're learning slowly but surely.
There are still climbable sections. You still have to climb a couple of radio towers, but it's all based around an actual mission and not just opening up the map.
Yeah, it feels less like busy work with minimal plot, which is one of the big offending things about some of the Ubisoft games. Because while the story missions themselves are great, all the missions outside of it are minimal.
You have to level up, and then you're just really, in the sense with this game, like Assassin's Creed Origins, where you have to level up, you do a whole bunch of side missions or just random stuff. Whereas in this game, leveling up and doing side missions and all that stuff actually plays into the overall narrative, because you have to have, which takes from Primal, you have to build up the resistance. So with resistance points by completing a side quest, or even like random things like saving hostages that are just driving down the road and being held hostage, you get points, and then the more points you get leads to you actually liberating an area of the map.
So, yeah, you have to build up what I like to call war assets. Hey, James, guess where I'm going with this? Oh, we're going to get there. But, yeah, like, it's... If you've been playing a lot of Far Cry games, and you've been playing a lot of... Like, you've essentially been playing it one Ubisoft game a year or more, which you essentially do, thanks to how often Far Cry games and Assassin's Creed games come out. Not to mention Watch Dogs 1 and 2, pretty similar as well. You might be a little tired of the formula, but really, honestly, this is one of the better examples of it.
That's the thing when it comes to it, is the fact that this game is genuinely fun.
It really feels like, remember, we got Assassin's Creed Syndicate after Assassin's Creed Unity, and Unity sucked. But then we got Syndicate, which was actually pretty good, but, like, after the bad taste that Unity gave us, you know, it kind of felt like too little too late.
The only difference with this and like, the Assassin's Creed franchise and the Far Cry franchise, I feel that it's like, okay, we hit the perfect formula for the franchise with 3. And they've just been kind of like using that for 4. And even with Primal, even with the stripped down version, it still was that same formula. And here we are now with 5, it's still the exact same formula, but the formula is so fun right now that it doesn't really affect it too much. Whereas they haven't really had really had a bad game. I know a lot of people actually knock on 4 and say it was really underwhelming. I thought it was good. I don't think it was the greatest thing in the world, but the formula is good enough that I enjoyed the actual gameplay. The same thing with 5, even with all of its shortcomings when it comes to the maybe being a little too thin on the plot and, you know, kind of padding with the resistance idea. It's still such a fun game to play, especially just running around liberating outposts where you start getting newer and better weapons.
Yeah. No, it's like even the repetitive stuff feels a little less repetitive this time. And honestly, I prefer 4 to 3. If I'm being totally honest,
I really like 4.
I don't know. I think it's.
I don't know why people love 3 so much over 4. To me, it was like both games are really, really good.
Well, yeah, no. In general, it's been slowly going uphill because like the first one was then the second one was.
The second one is such a divide.
It was kind of frustrating.
It's one of those I want to love so much, but I just can't. It's weird.
Yeah. And then, and then of course 3 you're starting to get into the swing of things, and then 4 it's like pretty good, and of course Primal, like we said, despite going a little more minimalist, actually worked quite well. And then we got this one, which, aside from one thing, which I think we're going to touch on now because I don't know how much else we have to say. So James, we're going to try to be spoiler free as best we can, but how about those endings?
Okay, just so you know, I'm not going to spoil too much, but there's 3 endings in the game. One you can get pretty much right at the beginning. Yep. And if you play Far Cry 4, you know exactly how to get that ending. It's not hard at all.
Yeah.
If you play Far Cry 4, you know exactly what to do. And that was the first thing I did when I was given that choice, and I realized, you know what? I'm going to just wait it out. And then the last 2 endings come, of course, directly at the end of the game. And I just want to give you a heads up. Make sure you make a save before you do the final mission, because there is no way to restart right before the final mission and replay it again to see what the ending is. So make sure you do another save. Because one big problem I had with Far Cry 5, and really the other Far Cry games too, there's only one save slot. So if you want to make a backup save, either do it on the cloud or have a USB, because that's the only way you're going to have a backup in this game. Which I hate. I don't understand why there's still this whole one save deal when it comes to really just Ubisoft games in general. But when it comes to the endings themselves, I actually like them a lot more than other people did. Even though, especially, I think the one that everybody probably picked the first time, which is the same one I picked, doesn't make a lot of sense. Even with the explanation by certain people of some of the hints that they give you, it still doesn't make that much sense.
I honestly don't like any of them. I don't even like the bonus one. No,
I
because
thought the secret ending was fine because it made sense in the sense of seeing what's around you and realizing this is a no-win situation. But it was like one of those things like you have to know what's going on. So why aren't you more prepared than this?
It's just like all three endings just don't feel that satisfying.
I like to me after replaying the ending and the one that I think a lot of people probably don't pick the first time when it comes to the overall ending. I like the fact to tie it into one of the major plot points and actually kind of gave a payoff to the fact that they warn you about your character in a certain aspect from what happens to you, and it actually pays off.
Yeah, that's solid. It's like, it just comes down to, it really kind of feels like you didn't matter. Everything you didn't matter. And there's nothing really gained. Like, despite all the freedom the game gives you, it felt more on rails than, like, most of the linear RPGs I play.
It's something that I criticized South Park, The Fractured But Whole, when it came to the ending. It doesn't feel gratifying. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest problem when it comes to the Far Cry endings. None of them feel gratifying. Like, I appreciate them. Like, if this was a movie, if this was actually just a movie, I would be perfectly fine with any of those endings. Well, the last two, I should say. No, I hate to see it. I hate to see a movie. You go to a movie and the secret ending is the way it ends. But if like the ending, especially like the main ending to me, like I guess that you would say the canon ending. If it was a film, you sit down for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that was the ending, mm-hmm. I would be fine with it when it comes to a film. But when it comes to a video game, where you put 30 to 40 hours into, and the ending is not necessarily gratifying in the sense of, this is what you thought you were going to get, and this is what you do get, and neither of those things line up. It is disheartening. It really is kind of like a punch in the gut, and like I said, this is the same thing I kind of had a problem with when it came to South Park, The Fractured But Whole, where the ending just felt like a punch in the gut. Yeah. But when it comes to this, for some reason, I guess one of the biggest things was the acting was so good by the main villain. It just drew me in. It was like, man, this is actually very chilling. And I kind of stepped back and was like, man, I like the ending in the sense of what they did with it, but it was not the medium that it should be a part of.
No, it's so not the right medium for it. I mean, that's really what... Like, if they had taken this ending and tacked it on something like the movie Red mm-hmm. State, for example, which has a kind of a similar plot. Mm-hmm. Like, if you've ever seen Red State, have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, like if they had taken the planned endings for this game and stacked that on the movie Red State, that would make sense. But yeah, in a game sense, when you consider what the effort the player goes through and everything like that, what they'd pull on you, it's really just, what was the point? And they kind of did that to you in the previous games. I'm not going to deny that.
This is becoming a running thing
like
when it comes
you
to
had
Far Cry
more
games,
Yeah, no, but this one was the most, like, it felt like you had the least mm-hmm. control. Like, at least in Far Cry 4, like, you can argue the bonus ending's the best ending, even though it's one that happens early on, so it's like, well, you don't really get to play the game.
It just felt so fitting, especially considering the environment that you were in at the time.
Yeah. And, like I was more satisfied with endings to other games, like Spec Up, like this, I always think, whenever I think of a disappointing ending, and it's like, well, what was the point? And then I think back to games like Spec Ops: The Line. It's like, well, there was a point there. Like, I'm sitting here at the end, and I'm kind of questioning, what was the point of this? Which is kind of a problem. I mean, yeah, the gameplay's fun, but if you end up torpedoing the emotional investment, it's hard to care. Like, I mean, I had
the characters themselves, especially when it comes to the villains. I thought they were the best structured villains in the history of a Far Cry game.
Well, absolutely, because, I mean, well, they can seem ridiculous at first. There's a lot more going for them than you might think.
Especially when you get to almost the tail end of each story, when it comes to, the big boss confrontation for each villain. And you just see the dramatization of the characters and the way that they built up. Like, you really want to get to them. You really want to hurt them, and they did such a well-paced emotional build to each battle, and then you come to the ending, and like you said, it just doesn't feel gratifying.
Oh, feels like the room is about to empty because somebody farted.
Like I said, I like the ending from what they were trying to present. I do. I really like both endings what they try to present. It was just, to me, the wrong medium to do it.
Yeah, the problem is, like, when you do run medium stuff like that, I don't get behind it. Like, that annoys me. It's like, did you guys forget what you were doing?
Like, did you forget who you were catering to? Especially when it comes to a Far Cry game. Like, is that what you're trying to present? That's what you're trying to give to that person.
Yeah, it's like a game where you know the ending's going to be a bummer. You want to make sure you still feels like whatever the player did matters. And if it doesn't feel like it matters, or if it just feels hollow, you're just going to take the wind out of their sails. And you're going to discourage replay. And I mean, this is one of the things I want to briefly touch on before we move on. Is, of course, it's a Ubisoft game, and man, is Ubisoft in on microtransactions right now.
And they got us good this time. They really did, because people that are complaining about the microtransactions should be complaining about something else to me in the game. And that is the perks. I don't know why they decided to do this, but perks actually affect the online competition in this game.
Yep.
Which,
if microtransactions were bad enough.
Which was really weird. Like, I did not expect that. I really didn't. And then you add that to the fact that the weapons and items that you can get in the solo game actually affect the online as well. And those are distinctively based in microtransactions.
James, don't forget, this is the same company that did the online play for Watch Dogs 1.
True.
And if remember what ended up happening with that.
Get those silver bars and you can win any online game you play in Far Cry 5.
Look, Ubisoft's never been great about this online stuff.
It's not as bad as EA, but it was
getting...
really surprising to me.
Oh, no, EA's taking it to new lows, which is disappointing, because, I mean, they're still making decent games.
I'm still mad right now what they did with EA UFC. They got rid of my silver created fighter option in Ultimate Team. I don't know what happened there.
I know, it's
EA, but I mean, it's a Ubisoft game. It's a Far Cry game. I really enjoyed it. I think... Yeah. As much as we're complaining
now, it's like, no.
I don't know how much you put on into the online stuff, but I had a good time mostly online. I just suck at it. I can't be mad and say, like, oh, it was a bad experience. No, I just suck at it. But, I put maybe about a couple of hours online, and like I said, I just suck. That's it. I'm not going to try to lie and say, oh, it's a terrible online multiplayer. No, I just suck. And but the big thing about it is it's really bad in terms of glitches. In terms of getting stuck in walls. Like, I don't understand. I didn't have any problems whatsoever when it came to the actual offline solo. Playing online, I got stuck in a wall like 3 times just walking. It was really weird. I don't know what's going on with the online situation there, because it was like one map where you could like go around and just punch people. There was no weapons involved, just you and your fist. And all of a sudden I'm walking and I'm stuck in a tree. And I'm just sitting around.
You're tree people now.
And the worst part, I was in the league too. I was killing people. I was actually doing a really good job. It was the one map I was really good at. And then I get stuck in a tree. And I like go from first place to you've been kicked offline because of inactivity.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
Well, you know what you can say about the online features.
Everything sucks.
Hey, speaking of everything sucks, and by the way, I did say that was a perfect transition.
That really was.
I was being a little facetious. I just wanted
to but overall, fun Far Cry. If you like Far Cry 3, 4, and even Primal, I think you'll love 5. Just be prepared to be a little bit disappointed with the plot. Because, to me, I hate to go back to it, but it's like Mafia 3, where it's one of those games that you have a really good plot, but it's stretched way too thin. That's Far Cry 5, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Unlike our TV show this week.
Yes. So everything sucks, but the exclamation mark is a Netflix series that just started up. It dropped in February, actually, so we're a little behind the times talking about this one.
We wanted to get some other stuff out of the way first. Yeah.
Oh, we had so much stuff. There's always something to talk about TV-wise. But in this, so it's... Probably the easiest way to describe it is it's essentially a parody of 90s post-John Hughes movies. Because it's not quite John Hughesian. It's more like, what was that? Like, it's more like the Ben Stiller movie, Reality Bites. But it's kind of a parody, because it's essentially a comedy drama. It's coming-of-age high school stuff. And it just has, all the convoluted nonsense, but it's doing it more tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. And, it's like there's a lot of silly stuff. It's like, oh, this guy's got a crush on this person who's dating this person who thinks they're gay, who also leaks rumors that someone else is gay, and they're all in the audiovisual club, because of course they are, because it's the 90s.
It's the 90s, and if you're a nerd,
you're
in the audiovisual club.
Everyone's making movies. Yeah. I don't think anyone ever said it, but I'm surprised no one ever actually riffed that terrible line from Rent. From this point on, I shoot without a script. That's called a home movie, dude. Sorry, I always hated that line from Rent. Hey, it's not all bad. Rent has that one really awesome song. Anyway, we're talking about Everything Sucks. So it's set in the real. I found this out. It's a real town. It's called Oregon.
That was very surprising to me. And before you continue on, how did you like the morning announcements? How they close every morning announcement during the school?
I'm gonna confess, I'm actually blanking on how they close that.
Have a boring day.
Right. That's true. They really beat that joke on the ground. And honestly, sometimes it does work. It gets old, but at the same time, like when they don't do it for a while, it suddenly becomes funny again.
Was like, when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, that's really clever." And then they did it so many times, it was really getting annoying. And then I realized, you know what? That's actually like school to be stuck to watch this all the time. Because we're kind of hitting the point, but I want it. So we have a series of kids going to Boring high school, born in Oregon, and it's 1996, and which they do actually play with a bit, which is nice, because I hate it when they pick a year and then they really phone it in. I don't know, like how to describe it. It's like comparing X-Men Days of Future Past to X-Men Apocalypse. Right,
they tried to make references to 1983, but they just didn't know what they were doing. Don't worry, they got Tab in there.
Well, I gotta give them credit. They got it out of the way really early, like a montage at the beginning of the series. Where it's like, oh, hey, look at all this 90s stuff. Yeah, that's what it was. And then, really, they had, moments of 90s stuff, but it really wasn't that big of a deal.
No. They had enough that didn't feel like the setting was superfluous, but it was also like, oh no,
right, it was like, hey, this is the setting, that's what it is. And then they had moments just to throw you back, like, hey, remember in the 90s we had dial-up computers and dial-up modems, and it takes 15 hours just to print out something? Like that kind of stuff once in a while.
Yep. And the character fashions alone, it's like you got the cargo shorts, you got the
with the 1,000
you got
patches.
the sort of trench coat, you got the
so many patches.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's so much patchwork stuff. There's a lot of stripes with non-striped coats or vests on top. And of course, and of course everyone just has horribly what was it? Our protagonist Luke, whose father left him when he was a child, and then you got, Then there's Kate, then there's the daughter of the principal and his crush, Kate.
That was
starts questioning her sexuality.
Point the major plot point. Besides, all of a sudden, Luke. This will explain a little bit too. Luke and his friends. He's got two friends that. The one kid reminds me so much Like they pulled him straight out of Stranger Things. Like, okay, this is what works on Stranger Things. Let's have him on this show. Ah, crap.
You mean McQuaid or Tyler?
I know.
McQuaid's the one that's just socially awkward.
That, like, okay,
Tyler's
right.
the one
like,
that legitimately has dyslexia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, though. That's so true.
Because I was thinking more McQuaid. Because he's just more genuinely awkward, whereas, like, the character of Tyler,
yes,
like, he's got legit dyslexia, and I think, didn't he have ADD, too?
Yeah,
because of course he does.
Okay, they're Luke and his crew. I just say Luke and the crew. They're freshmen in high school. They're coming into Boyne High School, and the way they feel they can make a splash is by joining the AV club that just so happens to have the boss's daughter Kate as a member of. And Luke sees her, and it's love at first sight, but it's only really one-sided initially, which I really enjoyed. Like, it's just because everybody's had that moment where you're like, hey, there's a girl that is really cute and I like her, and she doesn't even really know who you are. Yeah.
That can happen. I mean, I'm sure everyone's had a crush in their life where there's like, oh, and
you find out about her mom.
Kate's got her own things.
I thought it was a
her
great
mom is
moment
dead,
later in the series.
Her dad's the principal,
they did a great job of explaining
and she thinks she might be
gay.
gay.
In the series about her mom, which I thought was really good. And then, and Luke's mom is she's an international. I guess she's a stewardess. Okay, yeah. So, and she's like out almost all the time. So, Luke has to really take care of himself. So Luke's very mature for his age, which I really enjoy the fact that he's really mature. And then you see like these moments of him just being really, really childish and immature, especially later on in the series for a good reason though. But it's just, then you realize like as mature and as adult as he's trying to be, you realize that he's just a kid. He's just a little kid, you know.
Yep. I know it's. Yeah, like, the characters having a lot going on, and I appreciate that they're doing it tongue-in-cheek, but I don't know, like, I think kind of the issue I had with the series is, I don't know if they were going humorous enough. Or, I felt like they didn't entirely pick a lane as much as they could have.
Was it maybe the second or third episode where Luke and his friends, they decide, hey, we're going to try to do this video, and they do a mock music video with Oasis as the soundtrack, and like that was really, really funny, especially if you grew up in the 90s and you like get all the little references.
Oh yeah, like that's the thing. If you grew up in the 90s, you probably love the series.
It's a nostalgia trip,
I absolutely do,
especially for kids who grew up in the 90s.
I feel like it.
That's why I like it so much more than if it was another show. Like this was an 80s show, I probably wouldn't love it as much as I was an 80s baby, a 90s kid. But being a 90s kid, like, and all these little references that pop up just makes it a lot more endearing to me than I think it probably would for a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, the easiest way to say it is it absolutely hits the nostalgia just right. And it totally hits the heartstrings, you know, it hits you in the feels, absolutely. Because, I mean, especially, like you said, it's easy to get invested in Luke because he's mature, but he's also still very childish at points. He's got that one-sided crush, and you can really feel for it.
And, like, everything
he does, like, he's a very solid protagonist.
Especially certain big, big moments later on in the season. You can relate to him. You can understand exactly why. And then you're still like, man, you got to understand it from somebody else's perspective. But you can understand, like, if you were in that position, that's exactly how you would react in a certain way. So I thought he did a really good job of giving him a well-rounded character that is both somebody you can root for and somebody you can get angry with.
Yeah. I mean, like, the easiest way to put it is Luke and Kate get a lot to do.
Everyone else
and they're really well handled. But, yeah, and the comedy doesn't, and like I said, the drama doesn't, and the comedy don't entirely mesh well because at points it can feel over the top in more of a ridiculous way than an intentionally funny way, which is the problem.
In the season,
like that,
where like we're supposed to laugh, but it's just like, man, these guys look really, really weird. I understand you try to put over like, oh yeah, they're the drama club. They're supposed to be naturally weird, but it's like it was one of those very awkward moments that should be funny, and it really just fell flat so badly.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just thinking about one of my favorite things is that Kate realizes she's probably gay pretty early on. Yeah. But Luke falls in love with her while she's singing freaking Rocket Man.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which glorious. Yeah. Like it's stuff like that I can totally get behind.
Yeah. Which is why. What are your thoughts on the handling? Which is why I can
just love this show.
The situation with Kate and of course, potential sexuality crisis, because I thought they did a wonderful job, and the fact is, like, I know
I honestly thought they did a good job.
They didn't grow up in the 90s, don't understand just how much of a struggle it was for someone. It's like I said, the mid 90s, especially for a kid in high school,
especially
where it was such a problem, and even now, but I think it's a little bit more. It's a lot more accepting.
Well, I mean,
now,
even
especially
now,
in high school.
We're still getting movies about it.
You might make fun of a kid once in a while. You might hear of it, but it's not that big of a deal compared to in the 90s, where it just felt like it was such a huge deal if somebody came out like that, and that struggle of just being isolated. And I thought they did a really good job of playing that. Kate understands how much this could mess up her life, and tries to play along with the norm, and then just says forget it, I just can't handle it, and then still has that problem of trying to fit into this criteria that's being set by a parent.
Oh no, it's freaking impossible. And of course, I just keep thinking back to I remember a bit from I think it was 2009 where a kid decided not to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in school because he felt like the LGBT Q plus were not getting represented very well at the time, and so he refused to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then kids just started calling him gay wad, which I'm just like, ugh. Of course, the reason I remember this is what happened after, where Mick Foley decided to say, it's like, if I find out that this kid is being called a wad of any sort, it means some of my professional wrestling friends may come to the school and unleash a circle of hell.
Yeah.
I was like, this is why Mick Foley's the best. This is why I always want to hug that man. Yeah, oh no, it's funny too, because I mentioned Rent, of course, which had homosexuality and of course AIDS as a major part of the background of that, and that was big in the 90s. Of course, Will and Grace big in the 90s, back now, but yeah, even with the rising awareness of homosexuality, and
really was. It was a big taboo back then.
Stigmatized like crazy. Yeah, and so it's interesting how they handled it in the show. And of course, everyone's in love with everyone, so it just makes it all the more complicated. Where it's like, oh, I already have enough problems telling people how I feel. Oh no,
I gotta give a shout out to the fact that they did one thing that I've always hated.
I honestly think that makes it easier.
And they actually went a completely different direction with it. One of the drama kids, Oliver, which is the guy that pretty much initially he's like the main antagonist, and he just talks about how he's going to do a certain. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that hasn't watched it, but he decides he's going to talk about this certain thing he's going to do throughout like the first 5 episodes. Every time you see him, like his plans for the future, and he hates boring so much, and he has to just do something to make his life better. And instead of being like that guy that doesn't do anything, he actually does something. I know.
Yeah, no, it was. I'm surprised he did it before the end of the season.
Episode, and then you realize, wow, they actually went with it. Oh, that was actually one of my favorite moments of the whole season. It really was, because it was just so surprising.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's pretty enjoyable, and I would say check it out.
Yeah, if you grew up in the 90s,
especially if you would love to see some 90s nostalgia.
So much that you will relate to and enjoy, just from nostalgia purposes alone.
Yep, and so the characters are much more likable than
but just expect
from,
like
Reality Bites.
Luke
That
and
movie I
Kate
referenced
are
at the
like the
beginning of this.
main ones you'll really care about, and everybody else is kind of like fall by the wayside. But my question is, are we going to get a second season? Because if we don't,
Yeah.
man, they really left it wide open. Man.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not looking to see. I'm not seeing a second season right now, which is really disappointing considering the way the season ended.
Yeah, I mean, it literally premiered in February, so they may need another month or so to greenlight it or something. But we should hopefully hear soon.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah, I think that's
everything
pretty
sucks.
much sums
Doesn't
up everything
suck,
sucks.
So there you go.
Don't have much. No. Yeah. Before the podcast started, we talked about having a crescendo type effect, and I was like, I would say I liked it more than Far Cry 5, just because the ending really did sour me on Far Cry. But I have a history of being soured by endings, especially if it really takes the wind out of my sails.
Fractured Butthole really shook me up for the ending, and that Far Cry 5 is another one that left me wanting more.
Yeah.
In the sense of, man, I should be gratified and I'm not, but I don't think it's a bad ending.
Yeah, no, Butthole was more annoying
but at least the ending had the joke that had been running throughout the whole
bit, but that
the
was
whole
all
game.
right.
Like, you had a running joke throughout the whole game, and it paid off in the ending, so I was fine with that. No, it had
absolutely.
It had the same
Fracture
joke
didn't really
at the beginning.
Even
at
have
the
that,
end.
which I mean, it's yeah, which just isn't the same. Yeah, but it happens. What can we say? I mean, thankfully, we've had plenty of works that have made us satisfied. But
he said he has plenty of works that made us satisfied, and now we come to the.
I gotta say something. Like 2013 is one of the most frustrating years in film for me, just because of the fact that that's when we got Man of Steel, which forever cemented Superman snapping a man's neck in one of the dumbest sequences I've ever seen. Just because, like, you know how everyone has like one movie scene they have to pick apart like crazy. It's like I always go to that scene. I'm like, I could probably have gotten behind Superman killing a man in that movie to realize the horror of murder and like how terrible he felt after. So like I don't necessarily hate the intent of this scene.
Really bad.
I just thought the execution was awful, right? And like that's and what frustrates me is that movie made a lot of money, but a movie from the same summer I loved.
And it struggled
to break even. It took us 5 years to get a sequel. And that movie was Pacific Rim.
Yeah, it struggled.
Yeah, it barely did. And it's made by now Academy Award winning director Guillermo del Toro, right? And a man who's always like,
because we trust you, and we know you're doing
all right,
well.
you do that weird thing, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, it's like it's even if you don't necessarily like it, you can still appreciate how delightfully weird it is. I mean, I know not everyone necessarily enjoyed some of the other stuff he's done, and of course, we unfortunately will never know what his version of The Hobbit would have been, but he still wants to apparently do In the Mouth of Madness, Mountains of Madness, which is something he was trying to do with Tom Cruise for a while now. But sadly,
you don't want to get to it, do you?
Sorry, I'm belaboring the point because we got to get to Pacific. I kind of don't, because we got to talk about Pacific Rim Uprising.
The irony is not lost on me when it comes to that title.
Which is sequel 5 years later. I know. Man, okay, like, honestly, I don't know how do I put this?
Yeah.
I actually liked it more than I think some other people did, but I was frustrated with it. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that it was a sequel to a movie I loved, I'd probably like it about the same as Tomb Raider.
Okay.
Like, it would probably be more in that level. But with the emotional resonance that is how I felt about the original Pacific Rim, how happy I was to have a movie like that out there, and how happy I was to see that people would constantly debate why the heck they didn't use the sword earlier. Because, of course, deploying the sword all of a sudden is one of the most frustrating things about Pacific Rim, but hey, it made people talk about it. It made it a film worth discussing. And, and now in this case, we get Pacific Rim Uprising,
Yeah.
So directed by
directorial debut.
Stephen DeKnight. It picks... I believe so. I'm going to just double check that. Yeah. What did he work on? He did work on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, but I think he's more of a writer.
It's all coming together now.
Which should tell you something right there. Yep.
Yeah, after the first one. Yep.
So it's set about 10 years later, and we got ourselves a new protagonist in the form of John Boyega playing Jake Pentecost, which is a fantastic name. And I want to say right out of the gate, no matter what I say about this movie, good or bad,
that was it.
Boyega was amazing in this. Like the fact that I still feel apathy, and you can kind of tell that my voice, I'm like, man, yeah, it's just like you've got a fantastic protagonist with a fantastic name.
Yeah,
and I love where he starts out this movie because he's living in like basically a half-ruined mansion. Because here's one of the things the movie does really, really well, I think, and I kind of wish they'd spent more time on this, is they really look at a world post-monster attacks. Like, it's been 10 years since the Kaiju War, or Kaiju Wars. I think they did a plural. And so we're seeing him, like, living in just this trash part of Los Angeles. Right. He's working on the black market, selling stuff left over from the Kaiju Wars. Like, in this case, I believe he's selling Jaeger parts. Yeah. And so, like, we're kind of seeing them picking up the pieces, and a lot of stuff's going on with that. And that's really well done. Like, the world building is still really good.
No, I mean, they did expand on the world.
It's maybe not quite on the same level it was in the first film, but not by much.
I don't think really needed to do too much extra.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how much, because at one point they make a point of mentioning who one character's parents are. Yeah, not our protagonist, of course, because, I mean, the protagonist is the son of
Stacker.
Idris Elba's character from the first film. What was his name? Stacker Pentecost? Because characters in this series just have the best names, which actually makes one of the other characters' names all the more unfortunate. We'll get to him. I think you know which one I'm talking about. So, yeah, he eventually gets recruited by Mako Mori, who was Rinko Kikuchi's character from the first film. She's back.
He couldn't stop by.
Charlie Hunnam was too busy being King Arthur. Yeah, well, that was an unfortunate movie to be distracted by, but what can you do?
Yeah,
hey, even if I thought the movie was going to be terrible, if someone were to cast me as King Arthur, I'd be totally down for that. Oh, yeah. I'd probably question if they want to cast me in a role, let's say I'm not physically inclined towards, and you could probably guess where I'm going with that, but I'm going to leave it vague on purpose. So, yeah, like, he gets recruited into...
that's it.
What's the name of the new program? Is it just the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps now?
They kept saying it over and over again.
Yeah, that's the one. I have the notes vaguely in front of me.
Yeah, because they say the shorthand so much, and like you just forget
I had to remember what it was short for. The PPDC.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fine, because the shorthand does kind of feel like a police force, which is kind of what they're going for. Anyway, so he gets recruited to join up with them. And
good old Nate.
we meet his old combat buddy, Nate Lambert.
Yes, good old Nate.
Whose name is as boring as his character. In a world where we have characters like Jake Pentecost or Riley Beckett
in there too. Don't
or
forget about
Mako
that.
Moore, Nate Lambert. Yeah, there's so many more I could mention.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, Newton Geisler?
Yeah. And then we had some good...
or even like Herman Gottlieb.
It's VIK.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Nate Lambert.
I know. It's like all these characters have great names.
It's like
Nate Lambert.
It's like Scott Eastwood called his agent.
Played by Scott Eastwood.
I don't know about this
who I'm
name
still convinced.
It's like,
look,
what would my dad do? It's like you go with Nate Lambert.
Well, what your dad would do is he would learn how to shoot a gun without blinking, because that's something he's known for doing.
Oh, that was perfect.
Just saying.
That was wonderful. Okay, that just made it for the whole movie. Yeah.
You're welcome. As my bitterness just seeps out of it. It just makes me think, hey, what if Mako and Riley from the first film had no chemistry,
what you have
and we're just kind of generic dude bros.
Anytime Nate shows up,
that's essentially what these two are like. This is part of the problem. I don't want to. I know, and I don't want to hate on this Scott Eastwood. I'm sure he's. I can't think of anything I've liked him in, but he isn't bad per se. It's just, he's just got no chemistry with Boyega, and Boriega's trying like hell to have chemistry with him. I don't know what's going on there, but it's just not working. Anyway, so the plot ultimately comes that there's the Shao Corporation, which Newt from the first film is working for. And they're doing mass-produced remote control Jaegers, and all this stuff's going on. All of a sudden, Mako gets mysteriously killed by a Jaeger called
So we don't go too far to the plot, but just so you know, all the Jaegers are different now. If you didn't know this before, you'll know it now. Because everyone has, over the last 10 years, everyone has named these Jaegers, and for some reason, I guess the Jaegers now have all individual personalities. Yeah, so...
that's one of the things, and I wanted to stop there because I just want to mention. So they bring back a character, only kill her off in the first.
Into it, we weren't even done with the first act at this point.
I know, and I gotta be honest. That really annoyed me, even though
they tried to add some emotional depth to it, but it was like,
how they
but
tried
then it turned
build
to
on
teenage
it.
angst.
They didn't just make it an after. Yeah, it just if you're gonna do that, especially because Mako Mori was such a great character in the first film, I think that's one of the reasons I'm so upset because we had a really good character,
right.
We had a really good, interesting possibilities of seeing her in more of a leadership role, and they're just you know what? No, let's just kill her. I'm like,
right.
I appreciate that they gave her death meaning, but it just feels like such a waste. And that's really where most of the apathy comes from. I mean, there's more to it than that, because they actually they had a twist I kind of liked with one of the other returning characters later on. That one actually kind of worked for me, but this one, and it's a shame because we got to go to locations we didn't see before. We went to Sydney, we went to Los Angeles, and of course,
I was about to say,
not giving too much away about it. The climax takes place in Tokyo.
Throughout the whole movie, to me, that was the thing that stood out, was the climax. That was the location and everything. It was just so perfect.
Yep, and we still. And we still got awesome names for the Jaegers too. Even our new protagonist one is, rather than Gypsy Danger, is Gypsy Avenger.
Yeah. And
just to be clear, that's Gypsy with an I because they're talking about the color. Because it's usually color thing.
Obsidian Fury.
Crimson Typhoon.
Aforementioned Obsidian Fury.
Cherno Alpha, which is just an awesome name. Yeah, Obsidian Fury, that's a solid name. I always said if I had my own Jaeger, I would probably call it Azure Dragoon. Yeah. That was... Golden Lance.
It's hard when you're thinking about it. We put on the spot like that, it's hard to come up with something.
Yeah. But... Yeah. So, I think we kind of nailed what one of the problems is, because one of our main protagonists is boring as hell. The most likable one of the most likable characters in the first film was brought back and then killed in the first act.
Even though they give him a majority of the screen time, he just can't do it all.
Carry all this on his own.
I was about to say, what about Amara?
Then we get we have this Amara, and
oh man, you know what she reminded me of? What was the kid on Power Rangers Turbo? I
cared about her.
Yeah, that's what she reminds me of. Yeah.
Justin?
Yeah,
Really?
It just feels like she's supposed to be this wonderkin.
That's an interesting place to take. I guess that makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, true, but I was like,
there's a lot of examples of wonderkins that just don't work.
So much of this feels like
Wesley Crusher,
and not just because of the kaiju, and not just because of it. I'm in like '90s mode, and this feels like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers this time.
Yeah, and because it's a sequel, they're trying to do, because as you can kind of guess, they want to do some different things with this, and they do. I don't want to get into how the kaiju come back or anything like that, but of course there's a kaiju in it, and as you might imagine, because someone gets killed by a Jaeger, we're going to have Jaeger on Jaeger action. So, so they were trying to do some new things with it. But the other thing was, everything, despite going to different locations, remember in the first film, it always happened during bad weather, and kind of gave it like a natural disaster feel. It covered up some of the problems with... Yeah. But, now we got bright as day, and it just felt even more boring.
Very much so.
Which goes to show, being able to see what's going on doesn't necessarily help.
I think, like you said, the way they set it up and the lighting and everything else, it just felt like it was more CGI than anything. It just looked really, really bad. Like, it just looked fake. It looked like, if you look at... I hate to go back to the 90s. But if you look... Oh, even for the original Power Rangers movie. Like, you look at the CGI now, and you just see how terrible it looks. Like, this feels like this one... Like, it feels so dated already. And it's not like it's a bad-looking movie. It just feels like it looks dated.
Mm-hmm.
What?
You know what else kills me? We got names for stuff we didn't have names for in the first film, and the names are just boring.
Oh yeah,
because we find out what the names of the aliens are who sent the kaiju to Earth in the first place. The precursors.
Man, I just I don't want to sound so negative about the movie. It's a good popcorn flick, but
I know
if this was just a standalone title, had no connection to Pacific Rim, like or if this was the first Pacific Rim and they expanded on the next one, I would be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sequelitis right here. Like this
is really... thing. This one's sequel baits like crazy.
Man.
Oh. Like, they have two obvious ways to take the plot in the future. And, I mean, the first one is, like, the war's over. you don't necessarily think, there's no way they can do a sequel to this, but it's like, well, clearly the threat is over. In this case, it's
it's one of those endings like,
it's far from over.
Yeah.
It's like, all right,
everything in the world is at peace, but for how long? Right.
It's like, which was destroyed, the Master of the Apprentice. Hey, Jedi, stop sequel baiting.
For me, too.
We know there's going to be two more.
We talked about Tomb Raider last time, and they did the exact same thing. Like, they had the sequel bait, but it was more like, hey, we got this done, but we left a plot thread open for the future. Pacific Rim didn't. It gave us a solid movie that just gave you a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
And this one is like, okay, we're going to give you enough, but just so you know, it's not going to be a gratifying experience because, hey, we got something else coming down the pike, and it's going to be a sequel, and it could be just like this. It could be the new generation of Transformers movies.
Yep. What kills me, too, is, like...
Right.
They still ended the thread, but they didn't just stop the movie because it's like, well, that's all the plot we have. It's like, but even then, it just felt almost like when you ended Force Awakens, where it's like, well, this journey is over, so we're just going to stop the movie.
Right.
Like it had the same feeling, even though it was arguably a more complete story.
I just feel like as a sequel, it's terrible. And it's not a bad movie.
Know,
but as a sequel to a far superior movie, it is really bad.
No.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to put it. It's like, if you took out the fact that it was a sequel,
right?
It would easily be at least the same quality as Tomb Raider, where you could I wouldn't necessarily say, definitely go see this in theaters, but it's like, if you go see it in theaters, you're going to be fine.
With really no knowledge of the original I think you're gonna be a little lost, but not much. They do enough to kind of separate itself. Even with the lore, you can still catch up on everything. It's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
But when it comes to like, okay, I watched Pacific Rim, either I enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. You're gonna come into this one thinking about the original and saying, man, they either did this a lot better, or they could have done this better in Pacific Rim. Yeah. And it's a good movie. I'm not criticizing and saying that it's a terrible flick, but as a sequel to a far superior movie, I really wish they would have stopped with the original Pacific Rim and just told people, hey, this is it. I'm sorry to tell you this, you're not getting a sequel, because you're going to be disappointed. Yeah.
There are no Matrix sequels. You know, that's unfair, because, you know, those are more widely derided. I still say there's some redeeming elements in those sequels themselves, but I mean, yeah. It's just, you know what?
Once I found out about Del Toro not
I was actually really excited to see this. It's probably the biggest bummer.
I really kind of lost faith. Right, but I just thought it was like, hey, his name's on the credits.
I kind of thought,
so than
because he was still a producer, he might make sure
and that's how it turned out. So I really wasn't that disappointed with the outcome,
yeah,
but it was just like still disappointed because of being resolved. Like, I'm not surprised, but I'm still upset.
We're not upset, we're just disappointed. Now go to your room and come back with an awesome third movie, assuming you make one.
The thing that came out for me is like, okay, get the people that worked on Power Rangers 2018 and 2017. Get the people that worked on this and making a Power Rangers movie solo, or even like having a Pacific Rim versus Power Rangers movie, and I will be perfectly content with that. I think that would be the way to go.
I'll be fine with that.
Man, the Power Krispy Kreme wins.
But you know the Power Rangers will have to win because Krispy Kreme. Yep, Krispy Kreme is.
It's no tab, but it still works.
Apparently. Yep. Product placements.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's where we'll call it, because
we should have.
I just feel sad now.
We should have started off with movie and then get ourselves happier.
Really?
TV, yeah.
We should have got a movie, game, TV show, because I think. Yeah, because I think I just, like I said, it's just because it's more the ending more than anything for Far Cry 5, but
very much so.
Yeah, because everything sucks. It's pretty enjoyable. I mean, you know,
Pacific Rim was a bad
to do more, and
movie.
Things, but I mean, in general, that's a pretty good show.
It's a solid movie, but it's a bad sequel.
Yeah.
That's Pacific Rim Uprising.
Solid movie, bad sequel. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah. Still.
Yep. Even for a movie that actually had some of the cast return.
Oh man.
Well, at least Herc from the first one didn't show up again, only to be. That would have sucked. Poor guy.
I've been James Bullock.
All right. So I think we'll wrap it up for the day. I've been Peter W. Dawson.
Wow.
And until next time, don't leave your Jaeger out in the rain.